In the Voice of Russia World Service, welcome to a Christmas feature in the series Christian Message from Moscow. We wish you all a Merry Christmas and bring you this Christmas Orthodox chant, followed up by a story that took place on Christmas Eve in the 19th century. This true story was written down for posterity by a wonderful Russian writer, Orthodox Christian Nikolai Leskov, who was born in 1831 and died in 1895.
It so happened that one elderly merchant in our town, summoned as a member of the jury, refused to pass judgment over thieves. The explanation for this could be found in his childhood. This is how the story went. Long ago, there lived 3 thieves in our town, and they came up with a plan for breaking into the storehouse of one wealthy merchant's home. The storehouse was a stone one, without any windows below, and only one tiny window up under the very roof. There was no way of reaching that window without a ladder, and even then, a grown-up man could never squeeze inside. However, since the storehouse was chock full of all manner of goods, and the thieves knew they could make a good haul, they refused to give up their intention. So, they came up with a clever idea. One of the thieves had a 5-year-old son, who was so small and supple he would have no problem squeezing through the small storehouse window. So, one of the thieves said to the boy's father, "Hey, mate, take the youngster away with you on Christmas Eve. Tell the mother you're both going to attend morning service at church, and in the meantime, we'll go and do the job. Once we got there, we shall climb on each other's shoulders, wind a rope round the youngster's waist, give him a lantern, and lower him down through the window into the storehouse. Let him take stock of his surroundings, and then select the very best of what he sees. He will tie the rope round the various objects, and we'll lift them out. Then, once we've collected everything we want, well, the kid can tie the rope round his waist again, and out we'll drag him. We will divide the goods up into 3.5 parts. We will get 2 equal shares, and you and the youngster get 1.5. Who knows? Perhaps your fellow will develop a liking for the trade." The boy's father, a hardened thief, approved the plan. Christmas Eve dawned. The thief came to his wife and said, "Listen, I intend to go to the monastery for Vespers. The singing there, it is so divine. Listen, why don't you bundle up our boy? I'll take him with me, let him listen to some good singing." And the unsuspected wife agreed and let the youngster go with his dad. As you can guess, the thief did not go to the monastery. All 3 thieves got together in the public house and began drinking vodka and beer, however careful not to overdo it. In the meantime, they laid the youngster on the floor in the corner so that he could sleep a bit. Once darkness shrouded the surroundings and the pub was closed, the thieves got up, lit the lantern, and, together with the child, went outside. To begin with, everything went as planned. The boy turned out clever and quick. Once in the storeroom, he immediately took stock of the surroundings, selected the very best items, and tied a rope round them. All the thieves had to do was quickly lift out the spoils. When they had collected as much as they could carry, they ordered the boy to tie the rope round his waist, so they could lift him out. They had almost dragged him to the little window when the rope broke, and the boy fell to the floor of the storeroom. It was so sudden that the thieves themselves fell to the ground and thus created a lot of noise and commotion. This caused the dogs to start barking in the merchant's yard. Without waiting to be found out and seized, the thieves made a run for it, taking with them only a small part of what they'd assembled. When the merchant's servants rushed inside the storeroom, they found the place quite ransacked indeed, and a small boy, bruised with scraps of rope round his waist, crying on the floor. They immediately realized what had happened and ran off to inform their boss. "What should we do?" they queried. "Should we inform the police, or should we try to round up the thieves ourselves?" The merchant who had been robbed was a wise, kindly, and sensible man, and a good Christian too. So he told his servants, "Leave them be. Do not rush after them. And don't inform the police. Why, almost all of my goods are safe, and what's the point of raising a fuss over some minor trifles?" "As you wish," said the servants. "Besides, God saw fit to leave us the thief's child as a means of finding their whereabouts." The merchant, however, said, "No, we shall not do this. The child is an innocent soul. He is not to blame for having been led astray by his thieving elders. A child is a God's messenger. We need to get him warm and fed. Oh, see how he trembles with cold and fear. And do not ask him questions. He shouldn't testify against his father. It wouldn't be a Christian thing to do. Since God has seen fit to bring this child into my house, I will take care of him. Who knows, he might stay with me." And so it went. Everyone kept silent about what had happened. Moreover, nobody came to claim the child, so the boy stayed with the merchant. The latter cared for him as if he were his own son. He taught him the tricks of the merchant trade, brought him up in true Christian spirit. And the boy grew up into a fine, upstanding youth, who was much loved by everyone in the home, particularly by the merchant's only daughter, together with whom he'd grown up. Everyone in the home was aware of their feelings. And so it was that once the merchant said to his wife, "I've been thinking, it's time for our daughter to be married. Let's not look for someone outside the family. We are wealthy folk, and who knows what fortune-hungry suitors might come seeking her hand. There might be some cunning fellow who will manage to conceal his real self and seem good and kind, when, in actual fact, he is nothing of the sort. There is no telling what one has on one's mind, so to be on the safe side, let him be wed to our foundling, our adopted son, all the more so since they truly love each other. If we arrange their marriage, we shall never regret it." And so it was decided. The two young people were happily married. The old folk died, leaving the young couple to lead a long and happy life together with their children. When the merchant's adopted son was already of an elderly age, he was summoned to be part of a jury in court during the trial of a thief. As he sat listening to the details of the trial, he suddenly grew flustered, reddened, shut his eyes, and tears began to run down his cheeks, while a sob tore from his chest. The chairman of the jury turned to him in surprise and asked what was the matter. The merchant replied, "Please, let me leave. I cannot sit trial over other people." "Why not?" they asked him, and he answered, "Because I myself am a thief who escaped trial, and I want to repent before you all." And so he told everyone the story of how in his childhood the thieves had lowered him on a rope into the storeroom, how he'd helped them rob the merchant, and how the latter took pity on him, took him into his household, and brought him up as his own son. Everyone was so touched by the old man's sincere, penitent account that nobody in town had the heart to reproach him for his past. As one, they continued to treat him with the respect that he'd gained with his honest and dignified life. So, these are the kind of tender and honest souls one can encounter in life. What a joy it is to know there is such goodness to be found in people.
You were listening to a real-life Christmas story written down by Russian 19th century writer Nikolai Leskov. It was read for you by Pavel Novichkov. There we end another edition of the Christian Message from Moscow, directed by Vladimir Dyomin, editing and music by Tatiana Shvetsova, sound engineer Nadezhda Smirnova, and your host Michael Chernik. Before we say goodbye, listen to Orthodox Christmas chants sung by Russian Orthodox choirs.